So as it's getting quite close to Halloween, people are starting to think about costumes and bits of special effects towards their costumes. I thought I would do a little bit of kind of a 101 crash course on some of the more simple basics that are applicable to almost every single Halloween costume. So we have got some blushes, some bruises. These are done with cream paints here, which is the most common one. There is a bruise up here. It's less defined. That is done using bruise gels, which is my go-to. We have some scrapes, a small cut, and a nosebleed. So you can apply most of these to most looks. You can pull these into zombie looks, which is another one that I'm going to be doing. I think that's next week's video. But you can also pull them into anything else. So watch on if you want to see how to create any of these small bits of special effects. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is a bruise with probably the most accessible products, which is going to be cream paints. So this one is the Meron Bruise Reel. I don't like cream paints as much as some other products that I will get into a little bit later, but they are the easiest and the cheapest to access normally. So for a brand new fresh bruise, you're mostly going to be going into this red. This is kind of the colour you would expect when you've first been hit and it's starting to redden before we actually get the purples and the blues that we expect with bruises. So I'm just going to do one kind of here to show another technique. So what I'm doing is I'm dabbing it in a circular motion, but not filling in the circle as much. And kind of the reason I'm doing that is as you continue on, this creates a swollen look. So this area would look like it's raised higher because of the impact. The thing to note is bruising is never even. There might be patches where you've barely got any colour, there's patches where the colour's going to be deeper. And at this stage, if I did want to add kind of some more dark tones, I would then be going into this more burnt maroon colour. And just using a much smaller amount of that. I would just take that into very defined patches. And because that is quite kind of a smooth colouring, and you won't find that in bruises, very often at least, what you're going to do is, there's two ways you can do this. Either what we used to practice with most in my university was very cheap baby wipes, but if all else fails, any sort of makeup remover, so I'm using micellar water. And you want this to be mostly dry, which seems like you're defeating the point, but it's because you don't actually want it to pull off everything. And all we used to do is really scrunch up the wipe, or in this case tissue, and blot. As you can see, it's just picking up very small amounts of product. And if I get a patch where I think needs more targeted, I might do something like that, which would rough up the edges a bit more in more specified areas. One of the things a lot of people forget with Halloween and special effects makeup is naturally occurring wounds are not even, they're not symmetrical. A lot of people want to immediately go into symmetry, I know I do. That's not the correct way. So then if you're wanting a slightly older bruise, then you're going to use more of the burnt maroon, but you're also going to go into a blue-purple colour, so like this one up here, which looks almost black on camera, but it is a blue tone and it's Midnight Sky. So what I would do here is start defining more. So I've just defined more with the red, and then I'm taking that really dark colour, the Midnight Sky. And again, just sporadically in the places you would expect to bruise worse. Then again, that same tissue technique. That would be kind of an older bruise. Then if you did want something a bit more like a very aged bruise, when it's going to more of them yellows and greens, you would probably first want to pick a yellow tone. So this one's maize yellow. And I'm just going to do it around my wrist. This is actually one of the first places I practiced doing a bruise on myself, was on my wrist. So again, I'm using kind of the bone to the advantage. It's already raised, but leaving that place white is going to make it appear swollen. And then I'm going to go into the green, which is called Spanish olive. And just again in a ring. This is a darker colour, so you want it kind of more to the areas where blood would have clumped up more. And just because I want to deepen it up a touch more, I'm going into that dark shade again, so the Midnight Sky. Just very tiny amounts of this I'm using now. And here's quite dark. And again, just using the same tissue trick. And that is quite a nice looking bruise to the wrist. So now on to my usual go-to product of choice, which tends to be these guys. These are called bruise gels, and they are specific SFX products. I tried them for the first time about a week into university. I was obsessed with them. The first time I went to, it's called the Prosthetics event. It's a special effects, prosthetics, etc. event in England. And a lot of the stores have stalls. So the main special effects stores will have stalls there. So there's Krylon, Neil's Materials, Pigs Might Fly, the Makeup Armory, all of these places. And they offer discounts to people who are attending the event. So immediately the first thing I picked up was every colour. I didn't get every single one. There's, for example, a deeper red, a slightly different blue, a more yellowy green, but these were the essential colours. So it's the exact same kind of colour palette that was in my bruise wheel, which is a red, a purple tone, a blue tone, a yellow tone, and a green tone. And you use these guys the exact same way as you would use grease paints. These just tend to be longer lasting and they feel a lot different on the skin. This feels a bit like makeup, but once you're wearing these bruise gels and they dry down, they are going to last all night and they don't feel like anything. So I'm just going to do, where's a good place? Forehead maybe. I'm just going to do a bit of a bruise on my forehead for an example with this stuff. So it really is, it's a jelly in there. And I use this stuff a lot and it's still almost full, so it's kind of proof to just how long this product lasts. Honestly, if it wasn't for shelf life, you'd probably never have to replace it in your life, even as a professional. So I'm just using kind of the same roundabout technique. I do also just find that these blend quite nicely and layer quite nicely. So you can see I've had some patches up here that are very faint, there's barely anything in it. And then these patches more close to where the actual bruise is going to be a lot more defined. So it built up really nicely. Now the thing I have noticed with the deeper colours, so the blue and the purple, is they are really strong. They are so pigmented. You look at them and you think you'll need about as much as you do in the red and the greens. You do not. And just like with the cream paints, you can do the exact same trick for detailing. So the next thing I wanted to go over is scrapes. So for special effects, I cannot recommend this sponge enough. This is a stippling sponge. It is very coarse. It's got some really great effects. It's great for stippling, but it's also really good for scrapes, as I'll just show you. So main things I tend to use for cuts and scrapes is Meron's coagulated blood and Ben Nye's fresh scab. They're both the same idea. They are just a very thick, gelatinous almost blood. So we'll go into my Ben Nye. And all I do is just get one corner, not entirely saturated, but with a good amount on, so I just dab it in and out a few times. And you just drag. And that just creates quite a rough texture in the blood itself. So it looks more like a realistic scrape. I'm going to start doing the last little thing, which is another one that you guys will probably see a lot in Halloween stores or cheap kind of pop-up shops, is scar wax. The bane of my existence. I do use this stuff. I have used this stuff. It's normally my last choice of any kind of sculpting product. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my favourite product. I find it can get too sticky, it can get too dry. There's so much with it. Like this scar wax, I've just tried to melt it in my hand just a little bit and it's just completely gone. This one is quite a sticky product. The only good news is it does blend quite nicely because it's so sticky. And then you just need something stable, not even sharp, to just drag through. Just gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see. So then you can colour scar wax or anything similar with your usual makeup. Again, just for special effects, I do prefer using alcohol activated paints. They're just my favourite to use. So this is actually not a bad colour already for skin. So I'm going to just go straight into the Neil's Materials FX palette. If it wasn't very well colour matched, I would probably go in with my lighter flesh tones first, but I think I can work with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is take it into the red tone up here, which is just called Crimson Red. That is the other thing I love about these palettes, because they are a little bit bigger. You can actually fit tools like spoolies into them. I did use some other ones from a different brand at one point, which was the ones that were in our kit that we had to buy for the university. I love them, but because the palette itself was quite small, the pans were very small, and as a result, also the amount of product you got was quite small. So I've got the red on the spoolie, and all I'm going to do there's actually more red than my skin now. So similar technique to removing additional stuff for bruising. I'm going to be using the alcohol that I used to activate and just a little cloth, in this case towel, and just dab away some of the extra. The reason I'm doing this is my skin, as you can see, has quite a lot of redness and texture to it naturally, so a wound is definitely going to be quite textured and red on me as well. In fact, I'm going to take a little bit of that crimson red and I'm going to make it very, very translucent. I'm just going to do a light wash all over this area. And then I'm also going to take just a tiny amount of this tone, Bruising. And I'm also going to stipple that on. Not stipple, splatter that on. The next colour I'm going to go into is Fresh Blood, which is another colour down. And just very carefully run that mostly into the wound, and just take a small amount of fresh scab on the tip of a disposable brush as well. As just a little bonus of touch more blood, I am going to use some of Meron's Squirt Blood. I'm just going to take a tiny bit again. And the other very good one that you can use kind of any scab blood for is nosebleeds. I love a good nosebleed. Now, it's not the most comfortable to do, so it's not something you really might want to think about for Halloween. And it's definitely a good one to kind of have in the back of your mind if you just feel something's missing, which in this case it is. So again, make sure you get a sample out of your pot before you start, because you don't want to be dipping your dirty makeup sponges in. So I just do that first, so the kind of nostrils filled and the area around it is starting to look quite bloody. And then you can use the squirt bloods and stage bloods and things. I don't as often. I think I'll do it this time though. So the most important thing is make sure you have a mouth-safe one that you are using for this. So I'm specifically choosing one that has syrup in it, so that is Meron's Stage Blood. Sometimes just moving a little bit does assist in the drip. So I will just zoom out, get some pictures taken, and then we'll be done. So that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe. And I do love to hear from you guys in the comments below as well. Hopefully you've got some use out of this. These are quite a lot of the basics that can work towards a lot of Halloween costumes. And I will see you guys next week. Bye!